Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling a topic that, well, on the surface might sound a bit dry. SAM.gov updates.
Right. Not always the headline grabber.
Exactly. But stick with us, because I think as we dig in, you'll find some really practical nuggets of information here, especially if you interact with the U.S. federal government at all.
Definitely.
So we're looking closely at an official YouTube transcript from the GSA, that's the General Services Administration. The video is called SAM.gov Entity Registration Refresh. And our mission basically is to understand what exactly is changing in the SAM.gov entity registration process. And just as important, what's staying the same.
Yeah.
We want to figure out why these updates matter to you, particularly since they're starting to roll out very soon.
And it's crucial to frame this right. This isn't just, tweaking a website. It's really about how a massive critical government portal evolves.
Evolves how exactly?
Well, it's trying to better serve its users, right? So it's a mix of technical updates, things happening behind the scenes, but also a real focus on improving the user experience, making it less painful, hopefully.
That makes sense, making it more manageable. So when does this actually kick off for users?
Good question.
Okay, let's unpack this. The key date is June 23, 2025. That's when the first batch of these incremental improvements, they're words designed to make the system more modern and user-friendly, will start appearing.
June 23rd. Got it.
So before we dive into the big changes, let's maybe start with some reassurance. For those of you already using SAM.gov, what's not changing?
Always good to know the constants.
Right. Helps manage the anxiety. Yeah. So first off, the basic process of getting started, adding a new entity, renewing an existing one that stays the same, how you kick things off is familiar.
Okay, no big surprises there.
And if you're setting up a new entity, those very first pages you see, they'll look exactly the same as they do now.
So the initial entry point is stable.
Exactly. And maybe most importantly, the fundamental requirements, the information you actually need to provide to register or update, that's not changing either.
Good. So folks don't need to scramble for new documents or anything?
Correct. And that also applies to the processes for entity validation or getting your unique entity ID, the UEI. Those steps continue as they are. And crucially, the validation steps themselves, like the IRS validation for tax info and the CAGE validation, that code confirming your business details those processes. And importantly, the wait times associated with them. They're staying consistent.
Okay, so no sudden changes in processing times, which is a relief for planning.
Definitely. The system keeps using the same required fields to check that your entity is, legally real and unique.
And what's fascinating here is why that continuity is so important. You're dealing with such a critical system.
Right. Millions of users, billions of dollars flowing through it.
Exactly. So just completely changing everything overnight, that could be, chaos. This approach, keeping key things stable, it shows a thoughtful strategy.
Thoughtful how?
It means users aren't completely lost. It minimizes that steep learning curve, especially for people who already know the system. They can focus on the new stuff, not relearn everything from scratch.
Reduces the headache factor.
Precisely. It helps reduce user anxiety and keeps things running smoothly during what's actually a pretty big overhaul behind the scenes.
Okay, so that continuity is the foundation.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Let's talk about the updates aimed at modernization and making it more user-friendly.
The improvements, yeah.
If you've ever felt like you were navigating this, endless scrolling page with a million fields.
Oh, I've heard the stories.
Yeah, well, prepare for a change. SAM.gov is getting a visual and structural refresh on some key pages.
So a new look.
A modernized look and feel, as they put it. It's meant to match the latest design across the rest of SAM.gov, but it's more than just cosmetic.
Oh.
There's going to be a different navigation structure.
Yeah.
So remember that data entry all crammed onto one page?
Vaguely and not fondly.
Well, now it's going to be broken into more user-friendly sections, similar fields grouped together, more logical flow, hopefully.
That sounds promising. Breaking down complexity.
And here's a specific detail, sort of an aha moment for me. Entity validation is now part of a new business information module.
Okay, what does that mean practically?
It means you'll enter all your core business information in one consolidated spot. Think address, legal name, validation details all together. Less jumping around.
Ah, I see. So connecting that to the bigger picture, that makes a lot of sense. Grouping fields, centralizing info, it should make the whole thing more intuitive.
Easier to prep for, maybe.
Yeah, potentially. And, it might even cut down on errors. Fewer places to input the same data slightly differently. That could actually save time and hassle down the line, reducing those frustrating data mismatches.
That's a really good point. Okay, another key change they highlighted. New page-level help.
Page-level help. Tell me more.
So as you're working through the registration pages, the help section updates automatically. It shows you articles specifically related to your current step.
Oh, that's smart. Contextual help.
Exactly. No more digging through a giant FAQ, hoping to find the one sentence that applies to the field you're stuck on.
That's actually a pretty major step up, making the system more intuitive, reducing the need to, open 15 browser tabs searching for answers.
Right. Save time, reduces frustration.
Absolutely. It's about making the system work for the user, not making the user fight the system. It sort of signals this shift towards government portals being more dynamic, more helpful, almost like an assistant.
An assistant you don't have to pay extra for.
Exactly. Think about how that could impact training, or maybe even reduce the need for outside help for just basic navigation stuff.
Good point. Okay, so we know what's changing. How are they actually rolling this out? Are we just going to wake up one day and everything's different?
Thankfully, no. They're using a phased approach.
Phased, meaning?
Meaning the changes are being released in phases. They're moving just a few pages at a time from the, let's call it the old technology, to this updated experience.
Piece by piece.
Right. Not trying to rebuild the whole plane while it's flying, so to speak.
So what's in the first phase?
The first set of pages changing will be business information and taxpayer information. Those two modules.
Got it. And when is that again?
That's the June 23, 2025 date we mentioned earlier. That's when those specific modules are scheduled to release with the new look and structure.
And they did mention further updates will come out over the next several months, right? So this is just the start.
Exactly. It's the beginning of a process.
But, these phased rollouts, while they sound good on paper, sometimes for the user, it can feel a bit disjointed, like half the site is new, half is old.
That's a totally valid point. It can be a bit like living in a house during renovations. Some rooms are finished, others are still under construction.
So how do users navigate that?
Well, the strategic benefit is to make the change smoother overall, to minimize disruption and ideally ensure a better experience in the long run compared to a massive, potentially buggy single launch.
Gradual evolution, not sudden revolution.
Spot on. It's about gradual evolution. And the idea is that the official announcements plus that new page level help we talked about should hopefully guide users through any temporary weirdness during the transition.
Okay, that makes sense. So for you listening right now, how do you stay on top of these updates as they continue to roll out?
A practical question.
It's actually pretty straightforward, according to the GSA. They advise checking the SAM.gov website regularly.
The official source?
Yep. They explicitly say announcements will be posted there with the latest news and instructions. So, bookmark SAM.gov, keep an eye on their news section.
Yeah, absolutely. That commitment to providing updates is key. It shows they're thinking about the user journey through this change, and it really underscores the need for users to proactively check that official source. Don't rely on third-hand info. Go straight to SAM.gov.
Solid advice. Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. What does this all mean? What's the big takeaway?
Well,
for me, the bottom line seems to be SAM.gov is changing starting soon in a pretty significant way, but it's a user-focused transformation.
User-focused?
They're aiming to make a notoriously complex process more manageable, using things like smarter navigation, help that actually helps, and putting related info together. It's incremental, intelligent design changes.
Yeah, it's an evolution of a really critical piece of government infrastructure designed ultimately to serve users better.
Okay, so final thought time. What should folks be mulling over after hearing all this?
Well, here's something to chew on. As we see these vital platforms like SAM.gov adopting this strategy, phased rollouts, user-centric improvements, integrated help, streamlined data, what does this trend suggest about the future of digital government services overall? And maybe closer to home for some listeners, how might this kind of design philosophy, breaking down complexity, focusing on the user journey, providing help right where it's needed, how might that influence how you think about improving your own complex systems or processes, whether that's in business or elsewhere?
That's a great question to ponder. Lots to think about there. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the SAM.gov entity registration refresh.
Always a pleasure.
Stay curious, everyone. Stay well informed. The next one.
Thanks for watching. I'm Nancy, your AI avatar. If you like this podcast, you can get one for yourself based on a website, YouTube video, or any source. Contact me to get a customized quote for your content. See you soon.